What is going on? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today when you talk about Virgin Galactic, ticker is SPCE. I'm going to give you a good breakdown of some of the data points, what's coming out, and of course they did have their Q2 earnings. So I'm going to give you some highlights from that and just where I see things going. So I'm going to go over all that. Make sure you guys hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate it. And with that, let's get right to it. So currently it is down 4.8%, largely because of broader concerns, not necessarily specific to Virgin Galactic. So just be aware of that. And when I go over some of the technicals, it'll kind of justify why, at least in the short term, there's going to be a continuation of a lot of volatility. Today, there is 7.8 million shares being traded within the first 2 hours of the trading day. 15 is the average, so definitely today is a very heavy volume day. As of right now, there isn't any SEC filings or press releases other than the ones associated to their Q2 earnings, which in my opinion, the Q2 earnings were very, very good. So earnings per share was a beat. Revenue was a little bit lower than the forecast, but it did come in at 1.87 million. And that's huge, a 424% increase year over year. So you're going to see a lot more of those increases in the future as well, this huge percentage wise. They did reiterate that August the 10th was going to be their next commercial flight. As far as cash, they do have 980 million in cash and cash equivalents. And of course, they are burning through right now $450.26 million per quarter. So when it comes down to it, they have roughly around 2 quarters worth, but just be aware they did recently submit that S3, so they do have some available money if need be, but most likely that will be occurring sometime in Q3. No company ever likes to leave it for the last minute, so that's just my own interpretation, not financial advisor of course. But when it comes down to it, revenue was significantly higher than the previous year. They did say that this 2 million was largely driven by the commercial space flight and membership fees related to future astronauts. Net loss was a little bit higher, so 134 million compared to 111, and this was because of a little bit more development for the future fleet, which I think is kind of understandable. For the future guidance though, they did signal that there's going to be roughly $1 million in revenue for both the third and fourth quarter. So I think this is single-handedly what kind of caused a lot of volatility. I do feel that a lot of people were anticipating this to be a little bit higher, but whatever. 1 million I think is a fairly good accomplishment. It's still moving in the right direction. So once again, just be kind of aware of that. And then over and above that, free cash flow is anticipated to go anywhere from 120 million to 130 as far as a loss. So once again, that's kind of something just to be aware of. As far as the data points, there surprisingly is a lot of bullishness that's happening. So currently right now, within the first hour and a half of the trading day, there is $103,000 in calls being purchased versus 66 or 67,000 in puts. So 65% overall bullish. So a lot of people are anticipating for it to bounce and clearly go up from here. If you are optimistic and looking at the calls, it is anticipated to go roughly between the $4 to $5 range by next week. So again, that's a pretty positive thing. But when it comes down to options activity, as I always say, even if this was 20 million for calls, it would not move the stock price 1 penny. This is just a little bit more of a sentiment. As far as this, so these are all the transactions that have occurred on the secondary market over $100,000. There's only been one lately, and that was yesterday. So clearly piggybacking off of the earnings, this was done first thing in the morning, and based on the bid, the ask, and the selling price, it looks like it was a sell. So maybe they didn't necessarily like the actual earnings potentially. And these are all the transactions that have been occurring on the dark pool. A lot of people don't like the dark pool because it's very much linked to shorting and stuff like that. So I'll give you guys a quick overview of what shorts are doing right now. But when it comes down to this, on a side note, institutions selling. So the latest round of 13Fs, surprisingly, it does show Bank of New York Mellon did increase or make a brand new position of 900,000 shares. So I think that's actually a fairly optimistic stance. And over the last little bit, it looks like a lot of institutions have in fact been kind of increasing. Even Bank of Montreal did increase their calls by 2,185%. They also increased their puts though, but only 96%. So clearly they are optimistic behind the scenes, but still kind of hedging their bets, which is a common strategy for institutions. So I think next week or potentially even tomorrow, so either tomorrow or early next week, a lot of the big players, so BlackRock, Vanguard are going to be disclosing their positions. So it'll be very interesting to see what they have done with Virgin Galactic. And when it comes to it, like I mentioned, I'll give you guys a quick overview of what shorts are doing, then I'll go over everything else. So short score is currently 75, utilization is 77.49%, and right now shorts are increasing 932,000 shares. So pretty significant. So they're kind of doubling down, which is contrary to basically the options activity, what that is signaling. But still, when it comes to it, they do feel that it's going to be taken down a little bit more. I'm going to touch on the technicals just to give you a good viewpoint on what to anticipate. But 24.64% of the free float's being shorted, which is very, very high in my opinion. 59.6 million shares overall are being shorted. Cost to borrow is taking a little bit more of a kind of a dip, but it's been within that roughly 3 to 6% range for the last several weeks. So once again, just be aware of that. And as far as latest ratings because of their Q2 earnings, looks like analysts don't like it. And similarly, like I've said in the past, analysts just have never really liked Virgin Galactic from the get-go, which is very unfortunate because I do feel that Virgin Galactic does have a lot of good opportunity going forward. Just they need to develop, and I feel like they should have actually diluted a long time ago, not necessarily recently, because that is going to be something that is going to be on investors' minds. I'm just forward warning you guys because, of course, like I said, with how much they are burning through, they definitely do need money. And I believe they had a S3 for 400 million, if I remember correctly. Just correct me if I'm wrong about that. But when it comes down to latest analyst ratings, it looks like Wells Fargo did give a rating of sell, or a sell rating for $3.25. And they do actually have a fairly good success rating, so 78%. So that's a pretty good one in reality, not going to lie. When it comes to Michael, so it looks like Triest Financial did give a rating yesterday, a sell rating, and a $3 target. And of course, they have a 61% success rating. And then Key Bank, I've never heard of them before, they just gave a hold rating and maintained it. So again, they have a 100% success rating, which is kind of weird, which I don't know. Let me know if you guys have ever heard of Key Bank before. So let me know you guys' thoughts on these ratings. I do feel that there's going to be a lot more coming down the pipeline fairly soon once analysts try to digest their earnings in depth and what it truly does mean bigger picture. But based on this, the latest Morningstar report does have the fair market value for Virgin Galactic at $5.54. So make sure you guys always do your own due diligence at the end of the day. So like I said, this is a pretty good summary of everything, but when it comes to the technicals, momentum shows number of retail investors are flat and have been flat for the last couple of days, in fact. So they don't necessarily know where to go. Similarly to what I mentioned about the analysts, a lot of people aren't really happy about the future guidance a little bit, but they're happy about the results in the short term. So kind of inconsistent. People don't necessarily know exactly what to do. Stochastic is currently at 46, a little bit more of a bear sentiment right now. And as far as looking at some of the fib levels, with it being at $3.79, it is right below this S1. So 379 is a very strong support. So we'll see if that does kind of bounce back into this range of this S1 to the pivot. So 407 is a very strong resistance. And if it does break this $3.79, then anticipate to trade between this 362 and 379. So once again, I think there's going to be a lot of volatility, at least in the short term, and most likely going to continue for the remainder part of the 2023. But that's just my own estimate, of course. Make sure you guys always do your own due diligence. Let me know you guys' thoughts on Virgin Galactic. What do you guys feel that stood out to you from the Q2 earnings? I unfortunately didn't listen in, so I'm going to probably later today listen to the actual earnings call and see if there's anything else that stood out to me based on that. So I'll give you guys a quick update on that on a follow-up video. So don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. And one final thing, take advantage of crazy promos such as this. Just make a free account, throw $100 at it, and you get 5 free stocks. Each stock is valued up to $2,000 and a $50 cash reward. So this is literally a no-brainer. Take advantage of this while you can. Link in the description below and also the comments. With that said, appreciate you guys watching. Let's all make a lot of money eventually on Virgin Galactic.